Good morning. Welcome to Collision Coffee Talk. It is October 13th, 2025. I guess to me, a Monday the 13th is probably way better than a or way worse than a Friday the 13th. I don't know. You make your determination. I do know that we have a long and involved episode. I was going through kind of trying to get organized this morning, and there's like five or six things I had to cut. I was like, oh my God, if I cover all of these, we'll be here for 3 hours. So I'm thinking I now have rollover material, which is it's an interesting problem to have. But things we're going to talk about today on this Monday morning. Well, there's more problems with the dumpster fire that is Tesla. So we're going to talk about some Tesla total loss issues or just car sales issues and how they may or may affect body shops. There are two new State Farm class actions that sort of got announced last week for how the company is using artificial intelligence or AI in its claims processes. So, insurers historically have used a lot of AI. Well, I don't say historically, over the last several years, used a lot of AI in underwriting and some other things. And so, this will be very interesting to see here. The BASF, the sale of BASF is complete. So, they peeled off their coatings division. And that sale completed last week, and we'll talk about that and what that means for body shops that may be spraying BASF products. Jeep shuts down all their vehicles while driving Saturday, which was really interesting. Not all their vehicles, but Wrangler hybrids. And so we're gonna talk about that and what may be affecting body shops when they open their doors this Monday morning if they had any Jeeps in there over the weekend. Are insurers in a race to the bottom? And is that race to the bottom at a faster pace than what the collision repair industry seems to be racing to the bottom? So we'll talk about that. I have a special guest interview, a pre-recorded interview. One of the things that people wrote in about was, why don't you ever have guests? And my response was, nobody wants to get up at 4 in the morning and do this with me. And so I did a pre-recorded interview, and we'll just see how that goes. And if that goes well and everybody likes it, I'll do some more pre-recorded interviews. Or if somebody is willing to get up at 4 in the morning and do this with me, then maybe we'll have it be more of a live. But I'm going to play a little interview today with Yanni and his brother and Eagle MMS material invoicing because lots of stuff there. We're going to talk about utilizing AI and estimating. So there's probably not a path forward for the repairers. So the body shop side, there's really not a path forward unless you figure out how to sort of reinvent your office roles, job duties, it's sort of a complete makeover if you want to stay open. Like, I mean, we just got to be frank and honest about it. Like the way that we've done things or paid people in the past is going to go away. So we'll talk about AI and the use of that, particularly in estimating and what that possibly looks like. Amazon has entered the war on materials alongside of insurance companies. That's picking up. More and more shops are getting sent screenshots from Amazon or eBay or lots of different places. And we're going to go through that. Came up last week. Um, a little disturbing, so I want to talk about it. What does a labor rate reduction really mean? So last week we talked about State Farm reducing labor rates in markets to sometimes pre-2014. In a lot of cases, people are like, no, Kristen, we're rolling back to like 2005. Like the deduction is 20 to $22 an hour. That's insane. So we're going to look at that from a different perspective and just kind of talk about it. I think it'll go really neatly with kind of the what's happening with insurance companies as they have a race to the bottom as well. And then just some more discussion around repair and what repair means. There's a lot going on in our industry that just seems crazy to me. Some of the things that people think is a repair, and they're adamant that they're doing the right thing, that the repair over the replace is the great best thing for the customer. And we can't if you charge too much, premium's going to go up. And so everybody, I've been fascinated my entire existence in this industry. So 1994, 5 to now, why body shops feel like there is some sort of of repercussion if they charge accurately and are compensated correctly, that there's some huge massive repercussion or punishment to the consumer base for that. And I think the industry, I guess the claims industry, insurance adjusters did a really good job of making shops feel guilty or accountable. And sometimes they do that in the marketing, like a lot of the recent premium rate increases that were being asked that were huge, sometimes double digit premium increases. The insurers like to say, oh, it's because of an increased claims cost or whatever. There's so much involved in that. Shops, just please remember, in my entire career, I never had an adjuster walk into my office and offer to lower their salary or not get paid for a couple of months because they felt like claims was getting too expensive and it was going to make people's premiums go up. In fact, every performance review, those little suckers walked in my office and wanted a raise. Even the ones that weren't really good at what they were doing wanted a raise. So if adjusters that work within an insurance company aren't trying to take less for their salary or give money back, why do you keep trying to do it? And so we're going to talk about some repair issues and what that looks like. All right. I just want to continue making fun of Tesla. I mean, I'm not even trying to hide it, right? Like I dislike their collision repair certification program and where it's at. And so I think it's interesting to know that it's not just the collision repair program that's messed up within that company. There's a lot. I'm not really sure why anybody would want to keep continuing to be a certified collision repair station for Tesla, except I did run into some people that were like, hey, we're in a rural area, and they just kind of leave us alone. But this is a really interesting case that popped up last week. Man buys a used Tesla, so a 22 Model 3 from a dealership. So he buys this from this dealership, and he has it for a little while, and then he wants to charge it. So a lot of people don't want to put the supercharger stations inside their house. There's some premium reasons for that on your homeowner's insurance. If we want to go back and look at State Farm suing Tesla over homes burning down, but there's some people that don't want to do that, and so they basically go, well, I'm going to use these superchargers, charge my car, and then that'll get me for a week or more or whatever because I'm just doing light commuting. So he does that, and when he goes to try to use one of the supercharge stations, it doesn't work. He can't play, and he goes, well, maybe this supercharger station's bad. So he goes to a couple of more, basically in the Chicago market, and his car won't charge. So eventually he reaches out to Tesla. He's talking to Tesla, and Tesla finally gets back to him and says that his vehicle is no longer supported. So his vehicle is unsupported for supercharging due to a salvage title. Now, question mark, there's some going back and forth. He said it has a clean Carfax, it listed a minor accident, etc. They did have the Illinois State Police and the Secretary of State in Illinois investigated and said that this car was never, in fact, labeled salvage. So that was kind of interesting in that. And that in a statement, the company, so Tesla, said connecting a damaged vehicle to the superchargers is a safety issue, which is why his car was removed from the network. And if you have a car that's in an accident or has a reported accident, apparently it can remove you from the list. And there's a process that you go through to have your car re-inspected, can be over a couple of $1,000 for Tesla to decide to put you back on the supercharger network. And so as I read that, I was like, wait, Tesla's doing post-collision repair inspections? They're doing PRIs? If the vehicles were like, what kind of damage does a car have to have, a reported accident that would make Tesla kick it off of the supercharged list? And then who decides when it gets back on? I most of the people working at the Tesla service centers don't know anything about collision. So who's inspecting these cars? If it's going to cost $2,000, in the article, the journalist says it's a couple of grand to do it. The quote from the gentleman that has the car he said, why would I spend 10 grand more to get my car back on the system? So confusion there on that. But who's in charge of that? What gets a car put on the list? So any of you Tesla certified shops out there, have you ever had a car that's put on the list that says it can't be supercharged? Tesla's been talking a lot lately about how the cars aren't special and anyone can fix them. In fact, there's a famous quote from them years and years ago about it's just like fixing a Toyota Camry. So no, it's not, but thanks. Um, so what gets them on that list? And then what's the process for getting off that list? And then who's inspecting these damaged or um, damaged vehicle? And it's dangerous, right? Like, so do they only do this to people that aren't repaired by their certified network? Do they do it to the certified network as well? I just find it interesting that people have to pay a large amount of money to over $2,000 to an OE to have their vehicle re-inspected to see if it's worthy to be on it. But people will complain if somebody wants to charge $500 for a post-collision repair inspection, or 10,000 or 5,000 or whatever for theirs, and you have an OE that has a post-repair inspection service fee. Also, Tesla has if you don't pay your bill within 24 hours, they start charging you $100. Pick your car up or whatever. If you're at a service dealership, they start charging you $125 a day storage for the vehicle being there one day past when it's ready. And I'm thinking, but we yell at body shops for wanting to charge storage or whatever for things that are there too. So that was interesting. Well, that led down a rabbit hole that got even better. So as we were having these discussions and people were posting in the forums and commenting and et cetera, well, it turns out Tesla has more than that kind of issue. So when a Tesla is wrecked and deemed to be a total loss, and it goes through the salvage sale and whatever, there is a whole group of Tesla owners or previous owners or people out there that are saying that they're still connected to these cars. So using the app or whatever that Tesla has, they have followed their cars as it's gone from a shop to a salvage facility to a port. It's shipped in somewhere into Europe or other countries, and then they watch this car come to life, so to speak. This one's really funny. The people can, I guess using a Find My Car feature. I don't have a Tesla. I don't want a Tesla, so I don't have the Tesla app. But using the Find My Car feature, they can drill in on their car as it sets into the garage of this home in Europe. And then I just got to wondering, so can I honk the horn? Can I start the car? Can I do all those things that the app lets me do? And I would probably be doing those in whatever the middle of the night is for them. So if they're 8 or 9 hours ahead of me, I might just be going, let me just hit the alarm on it and have it honking and flashing to see if I can find my car, right? But all these people were sharing all of these screenshots and posts about how they're still connected to cars, and those cars have left the United States and gone in different places. And I guess it's just another story of security and technology and cars. There was a really good push 3 or 4 years ago. Mike Anderson was doing it. We were talking about it as well. But before a vehicle leaves the body shop, you should let me show these maps. I don't know if I showed them, so I want to put those back up there. But before a car leaves the shop, there should be a sort of a deletion fee, where you go with the scan tool and you get into the car and you remove all that. You sever a connection to an app if it's on there. You remove all personal data, including, we've seen the stories where people buy a car at a run and drive at a salvage auction, and they hit you turn it on, the infotainment system comes up, and you hit home, and it's stored the home address because that we wanted that all to work with the apps and everything. The car drives back to people's houses, and they can hit the garage door button and open up people's garages and drive right in their houses, right? It's like um it's the best burglary tool ever, so to speak. And in situations like that, where this car went through the salvage auction, it went to a port, it went by boat over to Europe. This one was a non-drive collision damage, so the people were saying that the car couldn't drive. So someone repaired it in Europe when it got there, and then someone bought it, and now they have it in their garage. And then I feel like telling them it's a charging. So if we go back and Tesla's saying that a car that was damaged or had a salvage title or whatever is a hazard for charging, and if Tesla has this level of of connectivity to their cars, then don't they have a duty to have some sort of warning that flashes across the screen that says this vehicle is unfit for charging? I mean, if they don't want it connected to their superchargers in the United States and disable a vehicle's feature to actually work when it connects to one of their chargers, that's pretty cool technology too. It knows what car is connected to it when it's trying to charge. But if that's the level of oh my God, this car's dangerous, then do they have a duty to let all these people know in other countries that are getting previous US salvage that that vehicle has a problem? Like, I seems to me there should be some warning on the screen that says this vehicle has been deemed a total loss. And I don't know. I just think it's kind of fun that on one side you want to play the protection and liability game, and our cars really are dangerous and there can be some really bad things that happen to them, which is why you need certified collision techs and centers and people with the right equipment. Then in a same breath go, no, 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 anybody can do this really. And then once the cars, you're still connected to it, so that's your app. So if these people are still connected to these cars, then you're still connected to these cars. Shouldn't you flag them for something? I don't know. That's my personal feeling. I think sometimes some OEs want to, when it's convenient to them, they'll stand up for consumer or human safety, and then when it's not convenient to them, well, they just don't really care at all. All right, probably you have to go to LinkedIn to get this article. It's really, really good. And Stephen Applebaum is he's got a consulting group called the Insurance Solutions Group. He really is just does insurance. That's his thing. PNC insurance. That's his thing. But this article talks about sort of the race to the bottom that the industry is in, and it's in it because of a lot of what's going on in our industry. He explains how private equity consolidation of all the services outside, there's a lot of honesty to be had when there's competition. So if we think about our industry, like as an insurer and all of the businesses that surrounded that, where you had body shops and software companies and salvage yards and all of the rental car companies and all that, there was a time when there was a lot of those. It wasn't always just Copart and IAA, and it wasn't always, we had at one point we had three really robust software systems in the industry, and then a lot of little independent little softwares that plugged in here and there. But that because there was competition, there was somewhat sort of a levelization of the playing field, a little bit more honesty. Consolidation in our industry has almost I don't really care if I hurt anybody's feelings. Okay. It's caused a lot of ethics, morals, all just to go out the window. I just people that like when you meet them, you're like, I know you're not a bad person, right? You have a family, you have kids, you have a wife, you have a husband, you have whatever. So you're probably not at heart like just a terrible, evil person. But the things you do in your job every day are kind of terrible and evil, right? So that ethics, that level of community. So he talks in the article about this ecosystem that surrounds insurers. There was a sense, I mean, in the 90s of protecting that ecosystem. And you would have meetings and somebody would go, well, why don't we do this? And someone would stand up and go, hey, because if we do, it's going to harm these small independent collision centers, and we need them. They're the backbone of this. If there aren't people out there to fix cars, then we're not selling repair as part of our policy. We're just going to end up having a total loss policy. That's all we're going to be doing. As consolidation came in and people started buying up chunks of the small independent repairers, and that forced software into where CCC has the majority market share now. And you have just two salvage vendors left, and all of these things, IAs, there's even not a whole lot. There used to be probably 50,000 different independent IA firms. And even that's got into consolidation. So people, as they chase that volume game. But what it's done is it's really it's attacked the whole entire industry. And it's making everything sort of like cliff and down. So that consolidation is one of the worst things that ever happened. So as this private equity money and all this came into our industry, they forgot that they're dependent on everything else around us. So as we got into these pricing wars, what it does to everybody. So insurers then, because the market seems smaller, so to speak, instead of having to deal with 10,000 different people, they're dealing with one or two. And you'll see people like your car stars or your whatever, sort of try to market that. Oh, we'll be a single point of contact. And you hear insurance companies goes, we only want a single point of contact. Because things feel small and you're not dealing with a large market, you begin to exercise an unfair advantage, or you start bullying people as an insurer. You start chasing price. You start doing all these. That sounds good. Like if I'm in acquisitions, or if I'm in, what do we used to call that department that was over all of the purchasing or whatever, getting a good deal seems like that's my job. My job is to try to get the best deal. But what everybody forgot is your job was you needed to make sure everyone eats, so to speak. Like everyone has a place at the table. Your meal may not be as nice and robust as mine, but everyone has a place at the table and everyone eats. And that left a long time ago. And we just started cannibalizing each other. And that's where we're at right now. When we talk about these labor rate reductions of $15 to $20 an hour in some markets, it's because of this crap. And now what was interesting in his article, he also kind of talks about how there's sort of been a premium race to the bottom as well. Consumers now have policies that don't cover a whole lot of anything, or the insurer just doesn't pay. And he talks about how consumers are now facing high out of pocket expenses due to coverage gaps. In other words, there's way more the policyholder is going to be responsible for other than just their deductible. And so I thought it was really great to have somebody from the insurance side of this industry, right? Talk about what they're doing to themselves in a lot of way, and what that's doing to their consumer base, what it's doing to the ecosystem of the partners that surround them. It's just really good. I think it's only like 3 or 4 pages. It's really short, sweet, and simple. You can get to it on LinkedIn, download it, print it off, whatever. But it's exactly as we look today. All of the people in I think kind of all of the people in this industry, paint companies, rental car companies, all of these large organizations, you need to say you're sorry to a lot of people. Software companies, I'm still waiting for CCC to apologize. But all of you need to say you're sorry, because you chased price and you chased being favored and you wanted insurance company business more than anything else. And the deals you cut, including you, the Calibers, the Gerbers, the whatever, the deals you cut have probably, I don't know how we save this industry. I don't know. I guess somebody asked me the other day, from a private equity advising, what was the health of the industry? And I'm like, we're balancing on straws right now. One big thing here or there, probably topples half of this industry. I do believe that's why the independent mom and pop shop, while they're suffering right now, probably are the only ones that survive, because they're going to be able to be more agile and nimble to come out of this wreckage, when it's all over. But so many of our MSOs survive only on discounts, whether that's consumables, paint, whatever. And now the insurers are taking that away. So they've watched and they went, wow, you got really good deals on paint. And you're about to see an insurer start to have their own paint deal. And they're going to be only willing to pay a certain amount. And so even our MSOs that were making, maybe losing over here on labor, but having great gains on these other categories within their P&L sheet, that's going to start getting affected. So you thought it was cute. You had all this purchasing power and you were going to make people give you 85, 75% off. And all the rest of us peasants that were paying, maybe we were getting 30% off. You thought it was great, and that was your competitive advantage. And that's how you got these private investors and equity firms to come in and give you money. And you bought more shops and you bought more shops. And now the insurers are like, yeah, we're just going to cut our own deals. And then now what? When you lose that advantage, when you don't have the advantage of 75, 85% off anymore as being something that sets you apart, what you gonna do? Did you teach people, or did you let things slide? Did you let things happen because you thought that's okay, we're gonna get it over here? But just a really, really good article. And that kind of plays into what we're seeing with labor rate cuts. So the reason I want to talk about this is I don't think people understand quite how terrifying this is. Like we may see mass numbers of body shops close, and I do believe that this will eventually take down one of our larger MSOs is bound to just go under. We all kind of have a feeling of who we think is going to be first to go under. But what does a labor rate cut mean? So we talked about it last week, what State Farm was doing. This is just a couple of screen grabs of people. This is one shop talking about as of July, State Farm has drastically cut the rates. They cut body from $97 to $77 an hour. And paint labor went from 97 to 77 as well. And look at that paint material cut. It went from $62 an hour to 48. Now, how in the hell does that happen when we know we're at like a 200% increase on pricing around materials and everything that's there? But so what does that do? Well, if we think about how technicians are paid, a majority of technicians in this industry are on what's called a flat rate thing. So you get an hourly rate. Um, Reddit has a post where technicians and people are chiming in, and we talked to some shops across the country, and $22 to $25 a flag hour seems to be the average that we were sort of able to kind of tween as we go from California to New York and then through the middle of the country. If you've got something different or you have a different, please in the comments, let me know. I'd love to keep having this conversation with more people. So of that flag hour, technicians, so body techs, average flagging anywhere from 90 to 110 hours a week. I think everybody would love to have one of those 150 hours per week, but we now know that we have labor time reductions coming in the estimating system. So people are noticing bedside panels, quarter panels, rear, like things are that used to pay like 10 hours last year suddenly pay 7.5. And we are working silently, and I don't want to say I never do anything silently, right? I do everything really big and loud, like a bull in a china shop. We're trying to figure out where that labor went. Did they think that something now is no longer automatically included and would need to be added as a non-included item? So sometimes that happens. Autotex was famous for that. Like they would automatically assume that putting a front rail in meant you had to take the engine out. You'd have 30 hours of labor on a rail, and you'd be like, no, 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 we're just doing the crush cap, right? So maybe there's been some sort of reconsideration in that area, but when you can't do that. I always tell people I'm from Arkansas. I'm terrible at math. My brother is great at math, so it's not like an Arkansas thing, right? But I'm terrible at math. Um, and even that math makes no sense to me. So if the girl from Arkansas can tell you that that ain't going to work, then somehow or another everyone sort of has to wake up. So how am I a shop that has all of, let's say I'm Brad here, and we've had other people, Brian chimes in there, says they cut it by $10 an hour. They're in Texas, and another tech chimes in and says, yeah, our area went down $6. Okay, so for the last X number of years, because some of these labor rates go back. I'm looking at some of them now, and originally had said, "Hey, we're rolling back to 2014." No, these are 2007 and 5 labor rates in some of these areas, which I'm like, "Holy camole!" Right? Well, let's just say that I have set the stage in my shop, and my technicians and everybody, they're making $25 a flag, and they've got their life planned out, and they have a lifestyle, and they have kids, and they have a home, and they have everything they have to need. And you come in and you take $20 an hour away from me as a shop. So I'm no longer getting 97, I'm going to get 77. I then can't continue to pay the technician the $25 a flag hour. So now not only am I not making, there's no way I can take that big of a cut and continue to pay my people that. So now everybody within the building is going to have to take a reduction. How do you go to a technician and tell them that you're going to pay them worse than they were in 2010? Hey, yeah, well, we're going to drop you to $17 an hour. And we all know that once this goes into effect and these shops you're allowing this to happen, you're not charging the customer because everybody's afraid you're going to make premiums go up. Congratulations, people. This is what you did by running around and saying you're scared to charge the customer. You don't want premiums to go up and giving hell to the shops that are doing the right things and calling them crooks and criminals. you got your labor rate slashed $20 an hour, $10 an hour, $5. You got your labor rate slashed in your market because they're like, people don't have the guts to actually run your businesses profitably. We're going to just drive it down. Now, some of this is ignorance. In the insurance world, like I said, you've got somebody that's in like a purchasing role or they're in a severity role and they're going, oh, we'll just pay less. They're going to have some data to back up why they're doing this. But if I call in my technicians now and tell them that I've got to take $10 away from them on their flag, what are they going to do? They're not going to stay in this industry. I mean, they've gotten accustomed to living a life of making a certain amount of money. They can't just not make that amount of money anymore. What are we going to, tell them make it up in volume as claim count continues to decrease and the cost of total losses continue to rise? Tell them make it in volume. If I'm a certain shop and I panic, do I start fixing cars that should have totaled? And now do I have more liability risk, not only to my business, but is that ethical that I do that to other humans, that I shortcut and do things I shouldn't so that I can try to get more repairs to keep my techs? Like the snowball of this race to the bottom, insurers like State Farm, you can't do this. I know you think it sounds good, and I know in a lot of ways you've not done this labor reduction to your DRPs, and in some way you may be thinking that this is going to put more claims through your DRP program. But what you're going to do is you're going to cause that independent body shop, middle of the economic food chain, to completely dissolve. And when it does, the MSOs will collapse down. So that doesn't stay. They don't get to keep where they're at. Like everything in an economy in this ecosystem, as Stephen puts it in his article, is highly dependent upon each other. And this is just, the part of it. And I think shop owners are a little nervous. They're not quite thinking through it yet. Some people are thinking it's just State Farm and either I'm not going to do State Farm work or whatever. But once this sets in a market, you'll see every other insurer go, oh, well, if you were willing to take $20 an hour less for State Farm, then we're going to do it for Progressive, and we're going to do it for Geico, and we're going to do it for Travelers, and we're going to do it for, all these different insurance companies. Our industry will implode. We can't do this. We can't have this. Now, for some shops, there's the we do probably need to think about redoing the way we've always said for a long time here at Collision Hub that flat rate commission has to go away. It's not sustainable. It can't be done. Shops will need to make money on total losses because you're going to have revenue. Like if we're going to decide that an A tech is worth 85 to $110,000 a year, and we're going to put him on that, we're not necessarily going to be able to get all of his salary through the vehicles that are repairable, but we're going to have them. We can't just go get a tech. I met with a company probably maybe last year that was working on an app where techs were going to go 1099, and basically you just rented an A tech when you needed them. So in my market, I might work for 5 or 6 shops. Will that come to fruition? Maybe, based on this crap. But it's just one of those things where there's a trickle down. So if you go in and you lower a shop's labor rate, then they're going to have to in turn turn around and lower all of the employees' labor rates as well. It's just not sustainable. I am hoping that some people get together and everybody's writing complaints to your state. Is this State Farm's way of avoiding taxes by reducing labor rate below what a market standard or what they've paid for since 2007? They're not honoring inflation. They're dropping paint materials to $48 from 62, knowing we have a 200% increase on a lot of those paint materials. Is this setting them up for what we believe will happen in January, where State Farm's going to announce they have a paint deal and some consumable deals? Like they're going to start acting like a Caliber. So if we think about Caliber and them going into the market and they get 85% off or 75% off their paint, and they get 60% off at 3M, and they get like an insurer acting like an MSO and getting pricing and then saying, well, this is the pricing we've been promised, so this is all we're going to pay. I don't care if you don't get that discount, Bob's Body Shop. That's your problem, not mine. I'm only going to pay what I've negotiated rates to be. And if you want to do X or whatever, it's very, very dangerous. I'm hoping attorney general's offices, Some states, depending on maybe a Secretary of State for revenue and taxing, definitely state associations. Okay, finally, time to earn your damn money and what you've been holding these meetings for and having dinners and buffets for sandwiches or whatever. You may need to find an attorney, and we may want to think about some antitrust lawsuits. Like there's going to have to be you've got no choice. You've got to fight. No one's coming to save you. No one's you're going to have to like attack this. If you don't, no one's around. Um, MSOs, I know you think that this isn't affecting you. You think that you're over here and you're running a business that's different. Um, but you built a model in which the insurer is now going to follow, and you don't survive either. Um, you may. You got all the money, damn it. So why don't you jump in this fight as well a little bit and go through it? All right, so does it get worse? Well, yeah, it kind of does. So there was an interesting discussion that started last week. There was a video that posted from in which a representative from 3M was talking about online purchasing and why you shouldn't buy your body materials from online. And they had several reasons why, and some of them sound legit, right? It could be fake product. So it could be, there's fakes out there. There was a video, I think 3 years ago, where we're with SADA at SEMA with US Marshals, and we're shutting down um, booths where people were selling SADA copies. And that was fun going because they take the booth, they take your laptops, they take your cell phones. The U.S. Marshals takes everything. It was pretty fun. First time to do it. I felt like, I was finally having my, I love cop shows and all that. So I was like, ooh, I feel like I'm one of them. So that was kind of fun. But so that's true. But ordering things from online from an unknown source or whatever, you may get fraudulent product. You may get outdated products. So products may have seasoned off somebody's shelf, and that's why it's online at a cheaper rate. You don't know how people store that stuff, right? So is it temperature controlled? Does most of our activated adhesives, et cetera, need to have a temperature control? You can't put it somewhere where it's too hot, and you can't put it somewhere where it's too cold. Everything has a shelf life. Like that could be true. Those are some things. But because in this particular presentation, insurance companies, when shops try to add line items to their estimates for things like seam sealers and foams and adhesives, the cartridges, we call them your cartridges and cans, cartridges and aerosols, like those are hard, undeniable extras. Let's put those on the estimate as a line item. So that insurance companies go and they screenshot something off of the internet and come back and go, well, why would I pay you? So on this 8115, after the latest price increase, so my October 1 price sheet, list price on 8115 is $122 a cartridge. But why would if you're going to put this on your estimate as a cartridge, we used, half a tube or a full tube. I don't know how people do halfsies of this stuff, unless you're like super active body shop. But we used one cartridge of 8115 to do this bedside or to do this quarter panel or whatever. And you put the list price on your estimate, and the insurers are coming back and going, no, I'm only going to give you $50. Like that's all I'm going to do. And so shops were complaining about insurance companies counter negotiating. And so that was part of this presentation. But here's the problem. 3M has a store on Amazon. So I can agree that if I go and pick some unknown supplier out of thin air or eBay, that all of those things about buying product online could be true. In fact, some kudos to SADA. So I often wondered why SADA never had, like, why can't I buy a SADA gun? Technically, buy a SADA gun from SADA online. And they explained to me, like, Kristen, there's a lot of fakes. There's a lot of fraud out there online. And the only way that we can guarantee that you're going to get an original, authentic SADA gun is if you buy it from one of our authorized distributors. So as a company, we will not do internet sales because of all the fakes that are out there. So that makes sense. But now 3M built a store on Amazon. So that was my question back to some of the 3M people chiming in was, okay, but what about your store? So I mean, like, it's not like State Farm's taking screenshots of Bob's Autobody Expo online sales, tent. We have a special this week on cases of 8115. The screenshots we're getting back are this, what you see right here. And it says visit the 3M store. Well, when you go to the 3M store, that's a 3M store. And you can scroll through it and you can see, you look up there at the top, right? You can sort body repair, paint preparation, paint application. I can get my PPS cups. I can get all of my sandpapers. I can get everything 3M sells is on Amazon, except for tools. I can't find like the vacuums, some of the hand tools I can find on there, but I can't find like the vac systems. But for everything else that 3M sells, it's in their store on Amazon. Now, the problem is, like, for most manufacturers, I can't ship you a onesie, right? So their distribution centers go typically to the jobbers, right? Who are going to be distributing the product, and those people buy, I'd like 52 cases of PPS, right? So they ship it out in volume. Well, I can send volume product to Amazon, and then Amazon will fulfill the orders in onesies. You can buy one at a time. And so 8115 is $54.29 a cartridge. So if I'm trying to put the 120 or the 112 on my estimate, because that's the list price of the list sheet that I was given from the jobber or from them directly, and then someone screenshots 54.29, State Farm is correct. That is the correct pricing. That's basically anybody through no special means can get this for $54.29. Oh, and for Prime members, it'll deliver in a couple of days. So why would an insurer owe more? Well, it got a little deeper. So body shops started going and looking at their purchasing pricing from their jobbers. What am I? So what am I? If I can get this for $54 on Amazon, what's my jobber selling it to me for? And people started posting screenshots stating that on average, the products on Amazon were $15 or more cheaper than what their jobber was. The jobber pricing was more expensive than what Amazon is. Now, the jobbers have a lot that they have to do, right? They got to deliver it, they got to service it, they got to do all these things. So one of the shops called their jobber and went, "Hey, have you seen the Amazon pricing from the 3M store online?" And the jobber was like, "Hey, that's basically my cost, so I can't sell it to you for that. I wouldn't make anything on it, so there's nothing we can do for you on a deal." Um, it's sort of the same thing that what State Farm's labor rate decrease is going to do to body shops. When a manufacturer cuts a deal to do anything, oh, like I don't have a great relationship with a lot of jobbers, but we need them. This industry historically is fragmented between independents, dealerships, etc. There's no centralized messaging system, alert system, or whatever that we have. Most people are heads down. Very few shops actually look up. Very few shops get involved. Very few shops go to meetings. Very few shops are part of a larger thing other than their own front door. They go to and from their front door every day, but jobbers are in those shops, and so they may visit 15, 20 shops in a market. That network of the jobber visiting other stores, other facilities, talking about what's going on, what they're seeing. The jobber was our original like gossip girl in a lot of way. Like, when we needed an employee, we asked the jobber if they knew if anybody was looking, but the jobber is who brought us our information. I mean, still, body shops, when there's a problem, a question, a concern, even though they know the jobber doesn't do it, they'll call the jobber and go, "Hey, I got this problem. My compressors broke down. You guys happen to know anybody that works on compressors?" The jobber is like our central everything. I always think of the analogy of the barber shop. So in most small towns, the barber shops where all the guys got together and talked and whatever. And I still, or McDonald's does that too. When I used to go to towns for catastrophes, I would figure out what McDonald's the morning old men breakfast crew was at. And there was always one, and it's, 8 to 10 old guys, 60s and 70s, that meet at McDonald's once a week and have breakfast. And whatever I wanted to know about what was going on in town, they would help me figure the things out that I needed to know. But that's the role of our jobber. They can't disappear. And whether you're using Repair Stack and there's a plan to eventually replenish your cabinet system or any of that other crap, whether that's there, we just can't not have the jobber. I'm sorry. I don't see how we move forward with such reductions in labor rates, and I don't see how this industry survives without a jobber that's running around between all of these stores. They are our glue. Most education happens through a jobber, whether it's they host an education night or they drive around and introduce new products. We don't function without them. So direct sales sounds cute, sounds like cut out the middleman, make more profit, etc. But we really do need our jobbers. Now, things I want you to pay attention to. Amazon ramps up in a lot of other ways. You can go on Amazon and look, they're distributing paint. So everybody goes, oh, well, they can't distribute the paint because there's rules about shipping that stuff. They figured it out. They're distributing paint. They're selling cars now. You can buy your cars through Amazon. So if you look, Prime members can get $1,000 Amazon gift card if you buy your car, your next new car through Amazon. We know Amazon for years, their automotive division would come to SEMA, would go to the things, trying to meet and work with the OEs. And so that's probably a lot of the next frontier when we think about uh, what a I want to put that what an insurer may be cutting a deal over. I firmly believe that 2026 is when we will see an insurer not only cut a paint material deal, but they will have an OEM part deal. And it would not surprise me if you're not ordering your OE parts through Amazon and they're drop shipping. In other words, they're going to cut out the dealer. So everybody that thought they were safe, whether it was a jobber that was jumped on the MSO train and started doing everything they could for the MSOs, or whether it was a dealership group that thought, oh, I'll give Caliber an extra discount and I'll sell them more. They're going to buy more parts for me, so they'll get a bigger discount. All those people that jumped on that bandwagon, it's they're just basically going to jump over you, and the manufacturers are going to start dealing with the insurance companies directly, and that's terrifying. So, everybody, everything's gone up. You've got to make money. You've got to be properly reimbursed. And to that, I've always talked about Eagle MMS as a material invoicing, but I kind of haven't talked much about what it does for EPC. So getting your hazardous waste, it's been $3 and $5 for hell since 1995. And you guys are spending way more than that, having your drums and everything, taken out of your facility. And so I had to sit down with Yanni and his brother to just share a little bit more information. And I thought, well, I would make them my first guest, and so I want to share that with you. I want to share my little interview with Yanni and his brother talking about Eagle MMS. Asked for it, and then one of the number one written in things for Coffee Talk is guest. Well, nobody wants to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning with me, so this is a pre-recorded special guest episode. Hi guys, how's it going?
What's going on, Kristen? How are you?
I'm good. I'm
How's it
middle of
going?
the afternoon. I'm highly caffeinated. I'm actually doing really good. Yeah, awesome. Hey, so last week you and I talked, and you guys did this great thing for the industry. You've waived your $500 onboarding fee.
hmm
I think it's great. Larry's angry because his I hate Larry code that gave a discount on the onboarding is now obsolete. So just want to give you a fair warning. The Larry's a little mad. His code's gone.
That's okay. It's run its course. Now we got Super Eagle.
Yeah, Super Eagle. It's awesome. I don't know why. I mean, he had the I hate Larry. At least this code could have been Super Kristen. I don't know, but no. So I'm really glad. But so in the process of telling everybody about the code, I mentioned the EPC calculator, and I got a ton of emails from people going, What are you talking about? What's an EPC calculator, and how's that work?" And then I remembered where I had a bunch of people telling me I should have a guest, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that fits." So, can you guys tell everybody about the EPC calculator?
Yeah, so we have in tandem with our materials calculation, it'll run a hazardous waste calculation based on layers basically applied to the vehicle. I'm hoping you could see my screen here.
Yeah.
So if I pick one of my open repair orders, let's say I have this Nissan Frontier, um, pickups, some paint code. If I'm doing like a bumper on it, and let's say I'm blending out and doing some rock chips on the hood, I'm going to select my kits, bumper prep. And once I hit apply, it's going to give me my materials invoice, right? So my regular invoicing system. What our hazardous waste calculator does is it looks for the layers that have been dispensed on this car, whether it's epoxy, sealer, primer, clear, base, if I'm doing spray out cards, and it'll generate a report for me automatically. So there's no work required. I just go to my EPC tab and I have my hazardous waste bill already, ready for me here. So we're just multiplying pints of runoff for, catalyzed material and for thinners and solvents needed to clean your painting equipment. And we multiply it by the drum disposal average per state. So not life-changing money, but $20 is
Well,
20
I,
bucks.
that kind of is life changing. I mean, I think every penny matters because most shops have no idea. I mean, they never put those two things together. When the truck comes to pick up my bins or whatever, you get that bill sent to you and you just pay it, but you're not making that connection of what it actually is costing per car for what you're generating per repair. Like, do those things add up? And so like I mean, you guys were telling me industry average because you see a lot of estimates that what most is
Mhm.
estimates from insurance companies is what a $5 kind of across the board.
$5 is the high end. It's still 3 or 5. It's like one of those two numbers. I haven't seen a 7. I haven't seen a 6. Just
Yeah.
$3 or $5 hazardous waste. With this, we're seeing ranges between, 15 and 25. It depends on your state and the actual volume of runoff. But the nice thing is they're pretty widely accepted. No one really fights this one.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I'll have people tell me, "Hey, Kristen, I don't get I have a hard time getting my material invoice paid. I may have a 20% acceptance rate or something on that, but I have a 100% acceptance rate on just getting the hazardous waste disposal." So I was looking at some quick numbers because yeah, was it last week when I did the whole thing over the you guys cutting the onboarding. I was like, if you get 20% based on the average return of 400, that's thousands of dollars you make. So even only getting it
Mhm.
20% of the time, I make $4,000 for something I'm spending $100 on. But if we decided that, so you guys gave me the $5. If I'm fixing 50 cars a month, then I'm getting paid $5, or maybe I'm only getting three. That's only about $250 a month that I'm going to get reimbursed. Now I'm going to spend more than that because that truck's going to come and take things away from my shop. But if I used this, I'd be getting $697 a month on those 50 cars. And so I mean, that's the ROI for the $100 a month right there
Mhm.
for Eagle. Just hazardous waste, I get my ROI right there.
Yeah,
If I
before you
only got
build a
paid
single
one
tube seam
material.
sealer.
Yeah, well, I mean, though, if I only got one, I mean, let's say I fixed 50 cars and 49 of them, my material invoice was rejected and I only got paid on one of them. I'm still way ahead because of what I'm making on hazardous waste disposal. That's crazy.
Hmm. Yep.
Absolutely crazy. So now it's not extra, right? So for that same $100 a
Nope.
month, I get this plus I get material invoicing.
Yep, it's part of the subscription. So it runs in tandem off the calculator. Anytime you run an invoice, it'll generate you a report, and it's part of the service, and it's part of the 99.
Yeah. And this would be something that I know I've been reading a lot of the new DRP contracts lately. Imagine that. And a lot of the new DRP contracts are really putting in something that's either explicitly not allowing shops to itemize material or has some language in there that kind of gets it away. There's nothing in there that says you can't itemize and look at what your hazardous waste disposal actual is. And I think what you guys did with this was great because it looks like you quoted all of the laws, like all of the EPA laws down there.
Yeah, so these are pretty heavily federally regulated, It turns out that there's a lot of statutes that you can't just dump this stuff down the sink. So we listed those statutes there, so kind of puts it in perspective that you have to dispose of this stuff properly. And of course, each drum you dispose of, costs money. So
Yeah, and we do know that we have a greater interest by the EPA and OSHA in our industry this year for some reason. They've warned us, they've called us and said, "Hey, we're going to be spending more time with y'all as 2026 approaches." And I'm like, "Great, looking forward to it." So it's one of those. Who doesn't want to visit from the federal government? Like, I don't know. Well, guys, I think it's great. I appreciate everything. We have some shops that just uh, they are so ecstatic with what Eagle has done, how it's helped them with more paint material profitability, um, just security in that. And then now that they're probably not happy that nobody else has to pay the onboarding fee, but we really appreciate you guys doing that. And hopefully y'all are running that till the end of the year.
Yeah, maybe longer. We'll see.
Okay.
We've automated that process a fair bit, so we're happy to give back to the industry, and we're also working on more features and making this the best program it can be. So
All right. Well, you guys, you've heard it. Basically, you've got until um, let's see, we'll just say until the end of this year to guarantee that you're going to not have that onboarding fee, that you can go ahead and get signed up. The beauty of Eagle is it is a month to month with no contract. So it's not a 2 year thing like the
Mhm.
software companies try to hit you with. So sign up, give it a try, see what results you get. And hey, if after a couple of months you don't think you want it, well, no harm, no foul. But if you never ask, you will never get it. So definitely now's the time if you ever wanted to try it to move forward. So, hey guys, I appreciate it. And I hope that I will see y'all soon on the road. I'm not going to be at SEMA, but surely I'll run into you guys somewhere soon. Right?
Hopefully.
Thanks. All righty. So that's the first guest segment of Coffee Talk. So I appreciate the guys for doing that and coming on the show and having that conversation. Definitely, as everything seems to contract, you're going to have to start really working on that itemization. And so please, 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 please take a look at it. If you don't use their system, use somebody else's some way or some form or another. But we do have 100% acceptance rates on the EPA calculators. Like we may get, like I said, a lot of shops only get about 20% of the time do you get an itemized material invoice paid. It's still worth it, even if it's only 20%. But on that particular one thing, I don't know why all of the MSOs aren't doing an EPA calculator. But that's just me. I want the money. Speaking of wanting the money, I get a lot of questions about artificial intelligence, and I had a really long conversation with a dealership group that was exploring AI that had been doing some tests with SmartRight. That's Derek and Billy with their company on that. And so we had a conversation about it. Their thing was that, well, the estimates they're too high, they're too good. We think you're going to total too much. And I was like, well, that's kind of the point. I would not want an artificial intelligence estimating system that goes too low, and then you have to hope that your estimators add things to them. It is much better to delete or easier to delete. It's more profitable to delete lines off an estimate than it is to try to add them. That's really what makes Billy and Derek's things different, is I think a lot of what the software companies are presenting under the direction of the insurers is that the estimate is sort of a starting point. So their AI generates the big rocks, things that should or shouldn't be simple through a set of rules, which please God, don't let anything be developed for you under a set of rules. But and then you want the estimator to pick the ball up and run the ball across the goal line. Yeah, they're not going to do that. That's not how this business works, right? They've got 90 million other things on their plate. So how would you do that? Everybody's going to have some sort of AI. I think what that's going to mean is that the body shop has to sort of reinvent itself. Our vision for that is the front office becomes just a couple of customer service representatives. That's all I want them to do. They're not writing estimates. They're not doing repair planning. They're not doing anything other than facilitating the relationship between the consumer and the shop and the insurer and the shop. And what that's their role. Their role is to be the face of the company, so to speak. I would like to see all artificial intelligence created estimates go through this coordinator. I think every shop only needs one. If we go back to the claims days, right? Claim centers, you would have typically maybe 6 to 7 estimators assigned to a claims office, and there may be 15 or 20 adjusters in there. All of that was coordinated through one estimating coordinator. And that particular one person, I can still remember my last estimating coordinator. She was brilliant. She's taking in all of the assignments that the adjusters are saying, we need to go see this shop, and here's where this vehicle at this location, whether it was a residence or a body shop. And then she would take those and decide who was going where. She would build our routes. And so we would come in that morning and we would grab our routes. And I may have 10 cars on my route, but those were all lined up for me. And then when I came back at the end of the day, I threw all of my completed estimates in a basket. And then she went through them, made sure everything was correct, and then pushed those back out to the adjusters or whatever. And one person can really handle the entire volume. You may have to there may be a mega shop that may need two coordinators, but basically, you're going to have your AI estimates that come in, and I don't want them filtered. I'm okay if every estimate comes in technically as a total loss. The estimatic coordinator then looks at them through the filter of whatever's going on. You don't want certain things on your estimate. Great, take them off. You may have a DRP relationship with a particular insurer that doesn't allow certain things. Great, take it off. But that one person sitting in that coordinator position, that's their role, is to make the estimate fit whatever level the shop wants to be at. Obviously, I always tell people, Larry in New York on parts restricted programs for, Audi and Porsche and all those people, he has a completely different level than me sitting here in Arkansas, right? So our estimates would be different just because of just our geography and our market and the kind of cars that we fix. That's what that coordinator does. Once the coordinator decides what's going to stay on the estimate or what possibly has to be reworded or re-envisioned for a DRP agreement, they will push that out. So that's where those estimates then get uploaded for insurance review or whatever system you're using or whatever you're on. What we don't want to have is having a crutch. We talked about it, when MIT has studied artificial intelligence and how it makes humans stupider. It doesn't make them smarter. So if we believe that you're going to get an estimate from AI that someone's going to look at and then add a bunch of money or add lines or whatever to, that ain't going to happen. That's going to make severity lower, which I believe is the intention of why insurance companies are involved in the artificial intelligence. You heard a lot of release or a lot of chatter over the last couple of years where CCC would tell you that they would make AI available to you if the insurer wanted you to have it or whatever. So the rule sets that have built the audit tools for insurers are the rule sets that are somewhat driving AI estimating, and you don't want that. So I would want I'd want a shoot the moon sheet, and then I would want to take the deductions off of it. That would just be completely me. But my front office people, they're just sharing the good news and they're taking messages. That coordinator is sitting in the back. That would also be their job, would be supplements. Supplements are going to happen. Like if supplements aren't happening, you're not really running I mean, the shop's not functioning in a good way. Nothing's perfect or, some of those things. But technicians would go to the estimating coordinator. They would never like really influence or talk to that. For those front office people, there's no point in it. So that's what I think we're going to have to start having a lot of conversations around how the body shop's going to be different. There'll be different positions or job titles and duties that never existed before. It's time. If I go into most body shops, they're still run the exact same damn way they were in the 1970s, same job titles and everything. We added a little technology. We have a computerized estimating system now. But other than that, we're still functioning really in the same roles. So we're going to spend some more time toward the end of the year on what we think those new roles would be and look like beyond just estimating coordinator, how that workflow would go. But please, 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 if you're thinking about implementing artificial intelligence in your office, which, hey, it can help save full-time employment expenses, so FTEs, all of those things that, hey, there's no more meat on the bone, Kristen. They just dropped my labor rate $5 an hour. I need more computers doing work, less humans. Please don't go with a solution that relies on a human to add to for you to be profitable. You're going to want something that means you take off. That's what I would want. And I know as I study it, and I'm going on 30 years of studying estimators, their brains, how they work and what they do and don't do. It is far more beneficial to deduct than it is to add. Like You will be more profitable, I promise you, if you have to have your estimators take things off an estimate than if you're relying on them to put things on. Because let's be honest, the last 30 years of this industry is a body shop been trying to rely on estimators to put things on an estimate, and we're still not there, which is why we still have estimating training and we still have computerized audit tools, and we're still trying to sell all of these shortcuts to try to get people to add things to an estimate. It's 2025 and they're still not doing it. So to think that they're going to do it with artificial intelligence is just stupid. That's, it's like, what is it? Einstein doing the same thing every time and thinking you're going to get a different result is the definition of insanity. That's what I hear when I hear most of these software companies pitch artificial intelligence to body shops. Like, oh, let's get you started. And while you're walking back to the car, you'll already have half an estimate written. Nah, that ain't going to happen. So just think about that. If you have any questions or any, want to have any more conversations on AI and how that works and what sort of the best workflows would be for a body shop, just let me know. Shoot Melanie an email. Okay, here we go. State Farm lawsuits. Last week, it sort of became official through press releases. There are two class actions now for the way that State Farm is using artificial intelligence in the handling of claims. So this is not necessarily how they're using artificial intelligence or credit scores or whatever to rate policies, etc. This is how they're using it for claims. One suit has been filed for homeowners and one suit has been filed for auto claims. So these are going to run side by side and separate. I love it. I love the way this is working. You have two different, you have the fire company and then mutual auto is, the way they set it up. But so you have two of those that are going. There's some very interesting things in play there that I think a lot of people would be interested to hear about, sort of how that affects our side of the industry and how we were thinking of using artificial intelligence in collision repair, whether that's you're using AI to do your research. So if you're using a program that's automating your OEM research, or if you're doing something that's automating your estimating, or you're using a program that's automating using AI to tell you what calibrations are needed. So there's a lot of potential touch points to this. So last week I talked about how it was $10 and you jump on this thing and I would explain something more in detail, sort of a value add. Hey, it's the economy's in the crapper and I do coffee talk for free, but if we're going to talk in depth on legal and applications and whatever, well, that's not free. Here's what we came up with. That was cool having everybody kind of write in and us all get on a Zoom together. Love it. Mark Olson joined a couple other people that were also, so we had this really great discussion over progressive and RTAs and how they were, there was a sort of a process where they were intentionally trying to avoid RTA. So we had a great discussion, $10. I think you can still reach out to Melanie. And if you want to hear that. All right. This week, I am going to talk about these two lawsuits. I'm going to talk about what's going on with them. We're going to talk about what's happening in our collision side that may come into play. Could we be sued for the same thing that the farm's getting sued for? And what we've done now is if you go to the Collision Hub YouTube channel, there's a button on there that says join. And when you click that button, you're going to get a couple of options. If you do club access, it's $3.99 a month. I have a lot of my group, my 20 group. We have 6 of them now, and they range anywhere from $50 a month to $100 a month, or you can do all 6 of them for $300 a month. But some people today have been like, hey, Kristen, the $50 a month is just too much. My boss won't pay for it. I'm paying for it out of my pocket. So I was like, all right, how can I get things below $50? Like, how much further am I in a race to the bottom? Holy crap. I may have to look at myself. Okay. So club access, $3.99 a month. We're going to do some shorts. And so those are the 2-minute or less videos, and they'll be really quick tips. Larry's done some estimating tips lately. We're going to put more of those. So if you do the $3.99 a month, you will get access to the shorts. So those are the only $2, the 2-minute little videos. If you do $8 a month, so less than the cost of a Happy Meal, literally, I never thought a Happy Meal was going to become over $9, but almost less than the cost of a Happy Meal per month, you will get access to those closed door discussions where we go into depth about things that are talked about on Coffee Talk. Plus, you'll also get those little 2-minute shorts as well. And it'll be I'm probably mostly legal and insurance stuff is what it'll end up. There may be a couple a month. There was one last week and there's one going to be this week. But then there may be some months where there's just not that much happening and I only have one extra special video. But for $8 and you can get an hour to an hour and a half of extra training, that's a really good deal. So be sure to get in there and join it. If you don't have the ability to get to YouTube and do join, but you really want to do this, shoot Melanie an email and walk us through why you can't do this, and we'll keep trying to find different ways. I know on some of the podcast stuff, there's subscription models, but I really need you to see the video version, not just the audio, because we're going to show things and go through different, depositions and court cases and some different things and let people. And so I don't know how that would come off in just the audio world. So be sure and pay attention to that. Well, State Farm's got some plans, and they're probably not good ones. So for the first time, they have created and hired for a new executive role, the Chief Communications Officer. Um, State Farm's always had a PR and a communications team. If you've read any of the repair-driven news articles, well, you've seen them go. We reached out to State Farm, and State Farm wrote back and said, "We have no comment on this for you." So they've always been there, but it's never been a department that's had to be like crazy, or I don't want to say crazy, intentionally staffed in certain ways. Because I always tell shops, if you don't do anything icky, then you never really have to worry about getting in trouble. And even if something happens and you get in trouble, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal because you had a certain standard, your character, your ethics, your morals said, I'm not going to do anything icky. Same thing in insurance. In fact, that's where I got that. If we don't do anything icky on a claim, then we don't need to have all this. And so for them to make this announcement last week at the same time that both of the class actions were made public on the artificial intelligence, they have hired Michelle Russo. It is a newly created executive role designed to further and enhance the company's strategic communications, brand reputation, and stakeholder engagement. In addition, down here it says that she is a seasoned communications specialist with deep experience in global reputation management and strategic storytelling. We don't tell stories in claims, Michelle. We tell the truth. That's the only thing that we do. And most of the time, the truth is not very entertaining. No one's going to make a movie off of it or whatever. And so the thought of an insurance company hiring a storyteller doesn't set well with me, right? I'm not super happy. We go down here and we find that she's led crisis response during global events. So crisis communications, that's my background. So my degrees are journalism and public relations, and my specialty was crisis communications. And didn't use it. So good thing my parents didn't have to pay for college, and I did that. So that was kind of cool. It's kind of come in handy. But I found it very interesting that this announces at the same time that the other stuff's made public, which makes me think that there are plans to do more things within that company that are going to cause more of an uprising, and they want somebody there to fog the glass, so to speak, right? Like that's when a good PR person is basically a problem solver. They work to point public opinion in a different direction. That's don't look at what the left hand's doing. I really want you to just focus on the right hand over here. That's what good PR is. I respect good PR. I think it's fantastic when you see it in action and it's working. But in this business, just get ready. If I didn't see all the cards stacking to what I think is going to happen in 2026 around DRP and State Farm's labor stances, paint material, et cetera, they're going to do even more. You wouldn't hire a strategic communications person just for disrupting of the collision repair industry. You plan on disrupting a lot of things. So we'll get ready to see where that happens. Let's talk about repairs and social media. So we got a lot of people that just decided that they wanted to start TikTok channels and whatever. And we've got some people that have huge followings and they're becoming a pain in the ass. Not because one, you make videos doing things the wrong way. You don't even know what you're doing is wrong because no one's ever showed you the right way. But you make videos of you doing things the wrong way. And when you get all the likes and the clicks on them, it trains adjusters to think, well, that's the right way. I've talked multiple times about lawsuits in which insurance companies have tried to enter YouTube videos from Blue Collar Schmuck or whatever, saying, hey, look, this is an OEM certified repair facility that this guy works at, and he's making videos of not following OEM procedures. So clearly that must be market standard. So we're over here trying to have a discussion or have a position in a lawsuit that says the OE is the standard, and I got a schmuck working at an OE certified collision repair center putting out video of not doing the standard. So this is another shop. I saved this customer thousands of dollars. We pulled the dents and fiberglassed it, and it's stronger than ever before. Um, he's proud of this, right? Like, this is a body shop and he owns it. He's proud of it. He's getting, likes and clicks. He's making YouTube videos, all kinds of crap. That's the damage. Before, yep, that needed a quarter. Um, but but he puts out this god awful mess. So what does the customer deserve? The customer deserves repair. If I showed the customer these pictures, and this is what it's going to happen, and then I flipped over, can you just envision what the backside of that thing looks like? How much water is in that area through normal driving? What is that going to look like in 3 or 4 years? Look at all of these rips that were in there because you're the King versus Ben rules there for a reason. So just atrocious. Like, this is terrible. But people don't know. Nobody publishes their repairs and goes, hey, I really suck at what I'm doing. I just wanted to put this video out there. Everybody thinks they're the greatest tech or they're the greatest painter or they're whatever. And that's now starting to show up in different places. So when you see this stuff online, I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, we don't want to be rude and we shouldn't, like, discourage people or whatever. These people are affecting your wallet. So how about that? I mean, you really have to look at it that way. The people making the video of them repairing crap that should be replaced, doing things inappropriate, sectioning, inappropriate panel replacement, all of those things, they're affecting your wallet. Now I get to see it because I get people that send me their servings, and working with their attorneys, and they're like, hey, Allstate's trying to make this video admissible. What do you want to do? I say yes, because I want the YouTube sensation on a witness stand. So if you're out there and you're making videos or you're making TikTokies or you're doing whatever, I always tell people there's a reason. Like I'd love to do a lot of different in-process repairs. The problem with them is they have to be perfect. They almost have to be lab-like, not like what happens in a collision repair center. Because if they're not perfect, then there's a legal problem for them not being. So we don't do those. That's why you see 3M do things with small parts, not on complete vehicles, because of those issues. Like, they're talented. They have talent. Sean Collins, Ryan Merriman, very talented body techs. But there's a reason why they only do little demos on small parts. So those people, when they do that, they're not intending to, but they're robbing you. They're stealing from you. They're setting a low bar of what the standard of the industry is. And when that video gets 100,000 views and 500 likes, why wouldn't an adjuster think this is the right way? What reason would they have to want to see something different, the way that people treat it? So you're going to have to step up what repair should and shouldn't be. You good techs, you good shop owners, you're going to have to start being more vocal. Whether that, I mean, people always accuse, I saw the other day where some guy made a post about, I'm so rude. Okay, I'll live with it, right? Like, that's fine if that's what it takes, but we can't just smile at people. The insurers want you to, people want to tell you that you need to act professional, and you need to be nice and all those things. That's their way of saying, shut up and let us just run our agenda right past you to get done what we need to get done. So don't let these people exist. There's more and more of them. It's getting worse. Everybody wants to be a YouTube hero, and I think everybody thinks you're going to make money. You can get 1 million views, you're going to make $1.25. So no one's getting rich off this stuff. It's a ego. It's a dopamine hit when you think about, I'm important and I'm getting things. Some people take it and turn it into revenue in some ways that they get sponsorships. Carliner will give you a frame bench and a welder or whatever. And that is financially beneficial for a shop, but you will probably end up getting named in a lawsuit. You're going to end up having to fly in somewhere and give testimony. You may end up getting your cars re-inspected because I'm going to promise you this. If a law firm calls and says, um, X insurance company is using videos from this particular technician who works at this shop to basically say that my customer isn't owed what they're owed, then it's worth it to them to pay the fee for somebody like Larry to get in a car to drive to whatever town you're in and start performing post repair inspections on all of the cars you fixed, because now we're going to have to, I don't want to say, we're going to have to impeach you as an industry expert on the stand so that they can't submit your videos. We're basically, that's the role that whatever expert, whether it's Larry or Mike Anderson or whoever the attorney hires, their role is going to be to embarrass your technician and your shop. So please be very aware of what's being made inside your doors. There's some good stuff out there, and there's some people I like. And I'm like, if you would just make this, you'd be awesome. But when you get over here, you've now crossed the line. So be very, very careful what you're seeing out there. I feel so bad for that customer on that car. All right, BASF sale is complete. So they've been for sale for a little while. We've talked about it. Who's going to get them? It is official. The press release came out last week. They have completed their majority sale to Carlisle for $6.7 billion. Now, this is a good one. We all worried about whether it was going to be another paint company. Would it be like PPG? Would it be Sherwin? Would it be somebody that would buy BASF? There was a little conversation on, I believe the paint company is Nippon, Chinese paint company, whether they would buy BASF. This is not just the United States BASF. So this was all of, Refinish as a global brand. The great thing is that Carlisle also is who bought Axalta. So when DuPont peeled off coatings, exact same thing BASF is doing right now. It was Carlisle Group. So they acquired Axalta in 2013. Did not wait very long before they took them public. So they took them public in 2014. And then they exited their last piece of ownership in that company in 2015. They have had other dealings. So they were the sort of the original consolidator investor into Service King, and they divested their interest to Blackstone in 2014. So they got out before that thing went under. But anyway, so Carlisle Group has a history of taking a paint company that was part of a larger brand, so DuPont to Axalta, and now BASF to BASF. I don't believe this is going to require a rebranding, a new name, or any of that sort of stuff to happen. But we'll find out as things go along. But that's actually a really, really positive, because they did a good job with Axalta. They took it and sort of, got their hands around it. There was some office closures, but DuPont had offices kind of spread everywhere. They had a big office up in Pontiac, Michigan, because it dealt with the OEs. And there was just a little bit of office consolidation. But they did a good job of turning that into a brand and growing it and having growth. And then they took it public and they exited out their shares. So I think that's a good thing. Not just for the shops that are spraying BASF and using those products and love them. We're going to have some continuity in that. You get afraid if another paint company absorbs them, will something you're used to spraying and love disappear? We saw a little bit of that between the Valspar and Sherwin-Williams acquisition. So now those brands are going to stay, those products should stay, those plants should stay. So we'll just have to see where that goes. But I think of all of the different rumors of who was going to get BASF, to me, this would be I don't want to say my favorite, but this would be what I believe is probably the most positive outcome for the repairers, and the custom people. I don't know much about all the other coatings that BASF has, but for those of us in the auto business, I think it's a pretty good thing. All right, so Jeep, Stellantis. Wow. All right, so Saturday, Jeep pushed. This is all over. You can go read all the posts. It's kind of crazy. Saturday, Jeep pushed a software update to the Wrangler 2024 Wrangler 4xe. So those are the hybrid models. Now, I remember I've been telling you guys that my Jeep Cherokee hybrid model has been in service since May. with a problem that they couldn't figure out. They just kept telling me I was waiting on a software update that was going to fix it. Still don't have the software update. But anyway, what'll be interesting is to ask my dealership whether this got pushed to the Cherokees or it was just the Wranglers. Anyway, so they pushed this update on Saturday, and it completely turned all of them into bricks. Like the cars wouldn't do anything. So you have all of these different posts. This one particular says, I was driving home and abruptly had no ability to accelerate or gear. The dash power mode indicator disappeared, and immediately shut the vehicle down. Um, but you're going 70 miles an hour and suddenly your car shuts off. Crazy. Just for those of you that actually work on Jeep products, if you have any of the hybrids in your facility, maybe you want to check on them. I don't know. Maybe you want to check on a few things before you deliver them. If you've had them in your care, custody, and control from, before Saturday, and then you're going to have them after and deliver them. There may be some checks and some things that you'll need to do. You may need to make sure these things are even going to drive and whatever. I have no doubt that they are working way overtime to correct. They may have already corrected in some ways. You just don't see the correction post online. But it just brings into more conversation around there's so much that affects the vehicle that is out of our control. So those vehicles are in our care, custody, and control, and we're working on the sheet metal and the paint, but there's so much more going on with a car these days than ever before. And it's so, I mean, you would think an OE would have done something before it bricked every one of their cars on the road. But just really interesting to watch that stuff unfold. But I wanted to mention this because, like I said, if you've got any Forex, Wranglers in your shop, you had them before Saturday. Take a little extra care, some whatever you need to do to make sure before you deliver those cars back to the customer that everything's going to be okay. Because if something happens and this thing shuts off on this one, like this one particular, hey, I'm driving home and I abruptly have no power, they're going to blame you because you were the last person to touch it. So just spend a little extra time and energy and thought into that before you deliver that thing off. All right, let's wrap this up because this was way too long. But man, and I'm telling you, I cut 5 or 6 stories out of this that I didn't feel were essential. October 21st through the 23rd, you can join our virtual class and post repair inspections. Maybe we'll sell it to Tesla, and we can help Tesla decide if vehicles should go back on the supercharger market since they're doing their own inspections or whatever. Interesting. But the post repair inspection class, every shop, every insurer, every MSO, everybody should take this class because whether you don't plan on doing PRIs as a service, you will probably at some point end up I don't want to say the victim of, but you'll end up a part of a PRI that somebody else is doing. So understanding the process, I think from that perspective will help you ask the right questions and navigate yourself through them. Most of our PRIs settle without court. Some of them get a little ticky and an attorney has to get hired. And then kind of as soon as the attorney sends a letter, it sort of goes away. But there's some things, if you listen to how a PRI goes, there's some things that most shops could do that would kind of prevent you from getting in a lot of trouble, right? Like if you do it right the first time, then you don't have to worry about doing it a second time. Let's talk about what's on the shelf. So I get lots of questions about workflow and what shops should do. And do you need a management software? I believe management software for body shops is kind of crap. And some people love it. Great. If you love it, perfect. Since the dawn of time, we have managed to be, we can manage body shops without having to have a software program to do it. The most efficient shops I know in the country run off a whiteboard. But we talk about estimator morning meetings. And so I have these little daily planners for estimators. It's a tear off sheet. I make the estimators meet ideally twice a day. If you won't commit to twice a day for me, then I will ask you to meet once a day. And this is sort of like you have your top priorities. I always say, I just want you to pick 4 or 5 cars. Like you may have 30 assigned to you or whatever. I want you to pick 4 or 5 a day that are your top priority. Either we can deliver those, we need to have something done on them. We can only control what we can focus on, and we can only focus on small little bits. And if you just focus on 4 or 5 cars every different day that you come in, you will find cars get delivered faster. So I have my priorities. I have my don't forgets over here if it's something I need to follow up on. There's obviously the to-do list, which is priority focused. Contact and reply. Like if there's something I really, maybe it's a follow up with an insurance company, maybe it's whatever, but also this is a short list. I want you focused. Notes. I'll take some extra notes during that meeting. And then I have coming up. So I always like to think about big picture. What are some really big things that are coming? That may be a logistical thing. I may have a vehicle that has to go to service. And I need to really plan ahead for that and call service ahead. Maybe I need to make an appointment as I know it's nearing completion. It's about to leave body and head to paint, whatever that is. But I may have another big issue. I may have a training or a trip or whatever that's coming up. But those are my coming up things that I just want to kind of keep in the back of my head that I need to monitor and manage. But I found putting some discipline around morning meetings kind of helps. I've never had a shop that has organically an effective morning meeting. I've gone to a lot of shops that have morning meetings and I go, well, okay, what are we going to do? And everybody sort of gets in a huddle and the technicians and everybody huddles up in the shop. And I'm like, why the fuck are we doing this? This is stupid. Um, well, I went to a 20 group meeting and my paint company said, this is what we should do. Yeah, stop it. Right. Like the techs fix cars. I don't need them in a meeting. Yeah. But I've never had anybody organically have a really good effective process. And so when they start, or if they haven't had a process, when they start having the estimators at least meet once a day, I would love for you to meet twice. And then nobody thinks it matters. Takes 30 days to make a habit. By the time we get to like day 15 of morning meetings, the shop's humming. Like there don't seem to be parts problems anymore, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of supplement problems anymore, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of bottlenecks in the paint department anymore. All the things that we say happen go away with just estimators having a morning meeting. So that's it. Those are the tear off sheets. If you want to, if you want the link to these, they can be ordered, and then you can customize them through a printer and make them your own, but have basically a template that allows people to follow it. And then I use the Remarkable. So I have these as a tear off, and then you have it as a PDF, and I can put it on my Remarkable tablet and just duplicate it every day if you're in the electronic format. So that's it. All right. Have a fantastic week. We're in the throes of the beginning of the last quarter of the year. It's also time to start visiting with your accountant to see if there's anything you need to do by the end of the year to avoid some penalties or whatever. You may need to spend some money. I like to tell people training is always tax deductible. Buy some collision up training. But whatever you need to do, if you need financial guidance, we do have a certified financial planner that works with we have a C20, so we have a 20 group for just business finance. But we can get you in touch with Rachel if you have any questions. She's the big beautiful bill does affect shops, and so there are some tax benefits because of that. We have a flyer. If you go to the collisionhub.com website and you click, I think it's news, scroll through, we've got a 2-pager that outlines some of the main components of the big beautiful bill that are instant tax benefits to body shops or individuals. So you can just download that and take a look at it. But if you need anything, well, you can always get a hold of us on the website or the social medias, or talk to the smartest person at our company, which is Melanie. And you can always reach her at melanie@collisionhub.com. Thanks everybody, and have a fantastic week. I will see you if you sign up for our little membership. I'm going to see you in 24 hours to talk about those 2 State Farm lawsuits.